I noticed that the first time when he bumped into a chair, sorry, there was no one around. No one he could have been apologizing to. But he still said it quietly, like it was a reflex. And for some reason, that small moment stayed in my head the rest of the day. I volunteer twice a week at a small community center on the east side of town. Nothing complicated, mostly helping kids after school, homework, sometimes just making sure they don't destroy the place while their parents finish work. It's the kind of place where routines matter. Same kids, same noise level, same energy every afternoon. You start recognizing patterns. There's always the loud group by the basketball court, a couple kids glued to the old computers, and usually one or two who stay quiet in the corners. That's where I first noticed Ethan. He couldn't have been more than 9. Skinny kid, dark hair that always looked like he'd just woken up from a nap. He wasn't shy exactly, just careful, like he was constantly trying not to take up too much space. The first few days he didn't stand out much, but then I started noticing something. He apologized a lot, and I mean a lot. If he dropped a pencil, sorry. If someone passed behind him, sorry. If he asked for help with homework, sorry to bother you. At first I figured it was just good manners. Some kids are raised that way. But after a while it started to feel different. It wasn't politeness. It felt like habit, like breathing. One afternoon, I was helping another kid with math when Ethan walked over holding a worksheet. He stood there quietly for a moment. Then he said, "Sorry, can you help me with this?" There was nothing unusual about the request, but something about the way he said sorry made me pause. Not nervous, not embarrassed, just automatic. Like he expected to be in the wrong for asking. I helped him with the worksheet, and he nodded the whole time like he was absorbing every word. When we finished, he said it again. "Sorry, thanks." And he walked away before I could respond. I remember sitting there thinking about it longer than I should have. Why apologize for needing help? Over the next few weeks, I kept noticing it. The kid apologized for everything, even things that made no sense. One day, a basketball rolled near his feet. He picked it up and tossed it back to the other kids. "Sorry," he said. Another time, someone else knocked over a chair beside him. He still said sorry. At first, I thought maybe he was just trying to be polite. But the more I watched them, the more it felt like something else. It felt like he believed he was always in the way. One evening, the center was quieter than usual. Most of the kids had already left, and Ethan was sitting at one of the long tables drawing in a notebook. I walked over and sat across from him. "What are you working on?" I asked. He slid the notebook slightly toward me. It was a sketch of a house, pretty detailed for a kid his age. Windows, trees, even a small dog in the yard. "That's good," I said. He shrugged. "Sorry," he replied. I laughed lightly. "You don't have to apologize for that." He didn't laugh. He just nodded, like I had corrected him about something. And that was the moment I realized something about his apologies. They weren't about mistakes. They were about existing. I started paying closer attention after that. Not in an obvious way, just noticing small things. When other kids ran through the hallway, Ethan moved against the wall. When someone asked a question in group activities, he waited until everyone else had spoken first. Even when he got something right, he'd say it carefully, like he was testing whether he was allowed to be heard. I remember thinking how strange that felt for a 9-year-old. Kids that age usually assume the world belongs to them. Ethan acted like he was borrowing space. A few weeks later, something small happened that stuck with me. We were cleaning up after a messy art project. Paint cups everywhere, paper towels, markers rolling off the tables. I handed Ethan a stack of brushes to rinse. As he walked towards the sink, another kid bumped into him. A cup tipped over. Blue paint splashed across the floor. The other kid immediately said, "My bad." But before I could respond, Ethan said it first. Sorry. He said it quickly, like he was trying to absorb the mistake before anyone else could. And I remember thinking, that wasn't his fault. Not even close. Later that day, I asked one of the staff members about him. Do you know much about Ethan's situation? I said casually. She thought for a second. Not a lot. Single-parent household. Her mom works late shifts. That didn't seem unusual. A lot of kids there had similar situations. But she added something else. She's been coming here for about a year. Really quiet kid. Never causes problems. Then she said something that stuck with me. He apologizes a lot though. So it wasn't just me noticing. A few days later, Ethan stayed later than usual. His mom was running behind, so he was sitting near the entrance reading. I sat down beside him. We talked about random things for a while. School, his drawing, the dog he had drawn in his notebook. Eventually, there was a pause, and then he asked something quietly. Do kids here get in trouble a lot? I shrugged. Sometimes. Why? He thought for a moment. Then he said something I didn't expect. My dad used to say sorry is important. That sounded normal at first, but then he added another sentence. He said if you say it first, people don't get as mad. I didn't say anything right away. He kept looking down at the book in his hands, and suddenly a lot of small moments started making sense. The constant apologies, the way he tried to shrink himself in crowded spaces, the way he took responsibility for things that weren't his. He learned something early, not consciously, but through experience, that the safest position in the room was being the one who already admitted fault, even if there wasn't any. I started noticing something else after that conversation. When Ethan apologized, he'd watch people's faces closely, like he was measuring their reaction. If someone smiled or waved it off, he relaxed slightly. But if someone ignored him, he looked uncertain again, like the situation hadn't reset. It made me realize something uncomfortable about human behavior. Kids don't invent those patterns. They learn them, usually from environments where tension appears quickly and apologies are used like shields. One afternoon near the end of the semester, we were playing a group game outside. Kids running everywhere, yelling, and bumping into each other. Ethan was standing near the edge of the field. At one point, another kid accidentally ran into him. Before anything else happened, Ethan said it again. Sorry. The other kid looked confused. You didn't do anything, he said. And then he ran off. But Ethan stayed there for a second longer, like his brain was recalculating something. A few minutes later, I walked over. You know something? I said. He looked up. You don't have to say sorry every time something happens. He thought about that. Then he asked something I didn't expect. What if it helps? That stopped me for a second, because from his perspective, it probably did. Saying sorry first had probably avoided arguments, maybe even avoided anger. It was a strategy, a survival skill. So instead of correcting him, I said something different. What if sometimes nothing needs fixing? He looked at me like that idea hadn't occurred to him before. Not because he disagreed, but because it felt unfamiliar, like a rule that hadn't existed in his version of the world. Over the next few weeks, something small started changing. Not dramatically, but noticeably. Sometimes Ethan still said, sorry, but sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he just said, excuse me, or nothing at all. And every time that happened, I could almost see the tiny shift in confidence, like his brain was testing a new possibility. Maybe being present didn't automatically mean doing something wrong. I thought about that a lot after he stopped coming for the summer, about how many behaviors we assume are personality traits when they're actually learned survival habits. Apologizing constantly, staying quiet, making ourselves smaller. Sometimes those habits don't start as politeness. Sometimes they start as protection. And the strange thing is, people carry those patterns for years without realizing where they came from. Now, whenever I hear someone apologize for something small, speaking up, asking a question, taking space, I remember Ethan, and I catch myself wondering something I never thought about before. Not why they said sorry, but where they first learned they had to.